but you got to go out of your way. You know, Bruce talks about, if you don't ask, you don't get. Sure words were never spoken. If you don't ask, you don't get. And going the extra mile. And when you go the extra mile, I mean, even though selfishly you're going the extra mile for you, but when you go the extra mile, it's never come back to bite me. Did I tell you the Ross Perot and the Bart story? We're standing in the Houstonian in Houston decades ago, and he's waiting for somebody, I'm waiting for somebody. We're standing at the bar, and Mr. Perot, Ross Jr. used to drink sarsaparilla. And they said, yeah, the little guy too. So Ross said, and then he used to carry a wallet, the old-fashioned kind of wallet, in your back pocket. It stuck out like this. And he'd pull out his wallet, and he said, whenever I'm feeling short, and he dropped it on the floor, I stand on my wallet. The entire bar collapsed in laughter. Now, these two bimbos didn't know who it was. They thought that he was being an asshole and didn't want to buy him a drink. But you're not standing next to those kind of people now. In Boston, it's easier. Flat ass, it's easier. I mean, in some ways, you're in the Venus flytrap of knowledge, okay? There's, a gazillion schools. Almost all the schools are good. Even the bad schools are better than most other schools. Alumni are active. Now, another thing that we haven't talked about, where do you get your chairman? A couple of you have gone to school, okay? Your alumni association. Okay, and I didn't mention it. I thought one of you mentioned it, but I want to make sure before I forget that when you're joining these clubs you can't afford, et cetera, and when you're going to Toastmasters and you're going to improv and all this stuff, you want to be on the committee, two committees. One is the membership committee, and two is the entertainment committee. But on the entertainment committee, you're not going to be doing the Christmas parties, and you want to be on the membership committee. You want to see who's coming in. Several of the guys in the last 3 or 4 years have gotten board members because you can cherry pick the guys that are coming in because you're seeing. Like, I belong to a club called the Jonathan Club, which is one of the best clubs on the planet, the world. When I first joined in '87, I was on the membership committee, okay? I was just at Conrad's in Osaka. And Conrad is the top of the Hilton chain for hotels. And something went wrong. I just wrote a very nice letter, a recommendation letter. And I don't write recommendation fucking letters. I just wrote a nice recommendation letter to the general manager that was there and the seniors, something or other, because of the way they treated Sally and I. But when they asked me, do I have any contact with Hilton? I said, yeah. Well, can we ask you what, sir? Well, I used to know Conrad Hilton, the Hilton. And I mean, the next day the service got better, okay? And I knew Conrad about 4 or 5 years before he died, because he was an oil guy too, but he started the hotels in San Antonio, but he was an oil guy. And a guy now I know, John Peel, dead now, God rest his soul, introduced him to him because the Petroleum Club in Los Angeles used to be in the Hilton Hotel. They gave a whole floor to the Petroleum Club, okay? But I needed a sponsor into the Petroleum Club, and Conrad wasn't around, so Baron Hilton was my sponsor. So now everybody in the hotel, they're chasing Sally around, seeing if she needs a coffee or she needs something, you know. But I've been around these kind of people. I'm blessed, but I go out of my fucking way. And when I was 23, 24, I had no business being around those guys, but I wasn't afraid of rejection, and they saw it, that I wasn't afraid of rejection. One of the, not in this seminar, but I'm sure some of you have thought of it, in the last seminar we had with the Navy SEAL guy that was here, and Amber, some of the guys would say, you know, how can I convince myself that I deserve to be speaking to this guy, that guy, or this girl? With great difficulty. But you're not going to jail. You're not, you know, sometimes, you know, security will push you away, because a lot of people have security now. But 50% of the time they'll let you go, how can I help you, young man? How can I help you, young lady? How can I help you, old timer? Especially now with woke. See, woke has dropped the nasty security front on a lot of very wealthy people now, because they don't want to be seen to be pushing poor people away. Now, you're not going to be dressed poor. You're not going to look poor. You're poorer than they are, but they're going to let you. Now, unfortunately, we had a mentee go to jail for stalking Carl Icahn, stalking him. That's what he went to jail for, although he didn't consider it stalking. Remember I said I go into the bank and I'm not leaving until I have a check for whatever your legal signing authority is? Well, he'd go into a bank and the security would drag him out, and he said that Mr. Peña stalked, which I didn't, Mr. Grassos and some of these other guys. And so he decided to stalk Carl Icahn. And Carl Icahn has a very short temper, I'm told, and got him arrested, lost his job. So, I mean, but there's a fine line, well, there really isn't a fine line. I'm not telling you to stalk these people. The reason why I know George Bush, one, is he lived reasonably close to me Houston, and I found out that he spent Sunday afternoons going to a malt shop, an old-time malt shop like from the 50s and the 60s. And so they normally cleared it out about 2:30 Secret Service, but I was there from 1, and I ordered malt after malt, and I had troubles finishing them, but I wasn't leaving. So when Mr. Bush came in, he's sitting over there, and so 2 Sundays in a row, do I know you, young man? I'm up to him. I'm sitting next to him, sliding my 3 malts with him, and the Secret Service are all over me. And they said, oh, no. He says, well, I happen to be a neighbor of yours, Mr. President. Yeah, where? And I said, around the corner. Now, if I hadn't been a neighbor, I'm not sure what I would have said. I probably would have said something that wasn't true. So, but I was a neighbor. But you got to go out of your way. And you never know when these contacts, as brief as they are going to benefit you. Are going to benefit you. But in the infamous words of Bruce Whipple, who I said he was dead a couple days ago, and I said, rest in peace, Bruce Whipple. And I got an email from him because he watches these things. These people can be of great benefit. Now, I don't think I used the Conrad and Baron Hilton names. I don't think I've ever used it, but it was appropriate, so I used it. And the service was so fucking good. I wrote a letter of recommendation. You can count letter of recommendations I've written for service I've received in the last 50 years on one hand. But you got to go out of your way. You know, Bruce talks about, if you don't ask, you don't get. Sure words were never spoken. If you don't ask, you don't get. And going the extra mile. And when you go the extra mile, I mean, even though selfishly you're going the extra mile for you, but when you go the extra mile, it's never come back with the bite me. Now, one of you many years ago, not stalked, but was able to meet a high-powered CEO, lady CEO from the pharma business. She tore him apart. I don't know why, but she was just really ugly. But that's 1 in 25 years. 1 in 25 years. But if you don't ask, you won't get. Okay, another golden affirmation. Now, are you going to be Belgian Waffle 5 or 4, or are you going to replace Belgian Waffle 1?
I see myself standing on the top penthouse of my own hotel looking over the Indian Ocean on the island of Mauritius, where I reside multiple times annually for business and pleasure, scorching through the surf with my windsurf gear, doing a double forward loop in the maximum wave stormy conditions. That's one.
For those of you that have been to Mauritius, it's paradise on earth. Instead of, Sally and I were going to set up shop there about 20 years ago. And instead we set up shop in the Channel Islands off between southeastern England and France. Because Sally and ultimately, before that, we lived in several years in Monaco, which is a fishbowl. Without the tourists, Monaco and Monte Carlo is beautiful. But unfortunately, 75% of the year, it's got 8 jillion tourists. And back in the days when the Russians were buying everything, they used to add, I don't know why I keep looking at you, they used to add security because the Russians used to forget to pay for it. And they put it in their big purses, or they give it to the security guard, and then leave. So then all of a sudden we go into shops, and there'd be 4 or 5 times more security guards that were in that jewelry shop before. And it's because the Russians used to forget to pay. They would just walk out. But the best Bloody Mary and the best hamburger that were those 2 separate things ever made are in the grill next to the main hotel. And it's beyond your wildest imagination. And that's an Alan Ducasse restaurant, 3 Michelin stars, and it's super. And then when we used to live there, we couldn't get a seat in our favorite restaurant because there'd be so many tourists. But go to Brando Island, I told you that. You may never come back. You may never come back. It's paradise. Any questions about this? Back to the commitments. In Amber's class, I told you she's the only one who did it. And they didn't write any, sign any documents, but she did it in 30 days. Actually, you can do it in 15 days. You cut them all in half, and you start, and you only continue the close if it's on a seller finance date. You don't give them a choice, and you move to the next one. But when you tell them the truth, that it's 12 to 16 weeks, the good news, and it's 12 to 20 weeks with an SBA in America, or their equivalent thereof, it's an easy sell. It's an easy push. It's an easy upsell to get them to the next level of automation.